possessive whisper, you're Jungkook's control, igniting a storm of obsession, fear, and love that refuses to stay silent. The words cracked through the backstage corridor like a gunshot, sharp enough to make Jungkook's pulse slam against his ribs. He didn't remember crossing the distance between them. 1 second Jimin was standing beneath the flickering fluorescent light, jaw tight, chest rising, and falling as if he had run a marathon. The next second, Jungkook had him pressed against the cold concrete wall, fingers curled into the fabric of Jimin's jacket. "What did you say?" Jungkook's voice was low, trembling, not with weakness, but with something dangerously close to breaking. Jimin's eyes burned, not soft, not teasing, not the gentle crescent moon smile the world knew. This was raw fire. "I said you're mine." Somewhere down the corridor, staff members shouted cues. Music thudded from the stage beyond the metal doors. Sweat, hairspray, and the faint metallic scent of stage smoke filled the air, but the world had narrowed into the space between their breaths. Jungkook laughed once, but it sounded wrong, fractured. "You don't get to say that." "Why not?" Jimin shot back, shoving Jungkook's shoulder hard enough to make him stumble half a step. "You act like I'm something you can hide when it's convenient, like I'm just a secret you lock away when the cameras turn on." Jungkook's jaw flexed. He hated when Jimin was right. He hated it even more because it clawed at a truth he'd been avoiding for years. Jimin had always been the brave one in small, quiet ways. The way he held eye contact too long. The way his pinky brushed against Jungkook's when no one was looking. The way he stayed up late just to make sure Jungkook ate after practice. He showed love like it was oxygen, necessary, unapologetic. Jungkook loved like it was something fragile, something that could be taken away. "I'm protecting you," Jungkook said through clenched teeth. "From what?" Jimin's voice cracked, but he didn't look away. "From rumors, from headlines, or from yourself?" That landed. Because the truth was uglier than rumors. Jungkook wasn't afraid of the world finding out how deeply he felt. He was afraid of how much power Jimin had over him, afraid of how easily one touch could make him forget discipline, forget image, forget everything he had built. And tonight, Jimin had said it out loud. "You're mine." Possession, claim, a line drawn in fire. Jungkook's control had always been his pride. He trained harder than anyone. He ran when others rested. He smiled when cameras demanded it. He swallowed jealousy, swallowed longing, swallowed the ache that spread through his chest every time Jimin laughed with someone else. But hearing those words ripped something open. "You don't own me," Jungkook whispered. Jimin's expression shifted, not softer but deeper. "I don't want to own you. I want you to stop pretending I don't matter." The metal door behind them burst open. A manager called their names. 2 minutes to stage. Jungkook stepped back abruptly, dragging a hand through his damp hair. His heart was racing so hard he felt dizzy. He couldn't perform like this, couldn't go out there with his emotions bleeding through his skin. But Jimin caught his wrist. The touch was warm, steady. "You think I don't see it?" Jimin said quietly now. "Every time someone gets too close to me, you go quiet. Every time I pull away, you look like you've been punched. Don't act like I'm the only one saying crazy things." Jungkook swallowed. He remembered being 17, terrified of disappointing everyone, terrified of losing his place. Jimin had been the one who stayed up with him during panic attacks, who pressed cold water bottles into his hands, who whispered, "You're not alone," when the dorm lights were off. Somewhere along the way, gratitude had twisted into something heavier, need, dependence, love so consuming it scared him. The stage lights flashed red, 30 seconds. Jungkook pulled Jimin closer suddenly, foreheads almost touching. "If you say things like that," he murmured, voice rough, "I'm going to lose control." Jimin didn't flinch. "Maybe you need to." The music exploded through the speakers. They went on stage like nothing had happened. The crowd roared, a tidal wave of sound crashing over them. Lights blinded. Heat from the pyrotechnics licked at Jungkook's skin. His body moved on instinct, sharp choreography, precise angles, but his mind stayed locked in that corridor. Your mind. Every time Jimin's hand brushed his during the dance break, electricity shot up Jungkook's spine. When Jimin smirked at him during a vocal run, it felt like a challenge. When Jimin's fingers lingered half a second too long at the end pose, Jungkook's breath stuttered. By the time the final note faded, Jungkook was shaking. Back in the dressing room, silence settled thick and heavy. The others sensed something but said nothing. Years together had taught them when to give space. Jungkook stood in front of the mirror, staring at his own reflection. Sweat traced down his temple. His pupils were blown wide. He looked like someone on the edge of a fight. Or a confession. Jimin approached from behind, their eyes meeting in the mirror. No audience now, no choreography to hide behind. You're angry, Jimin said. I'm scared, Jungkook corrected before he could stop himself. The honesty hung in the air. Jimin blinked, surprised. I'm scared, Jungkook repeated, turning around, because when you say you're mine, I want to say it back, and if I do, there's no pretending anymore, no hiding behind jokes or fan service or just friends. It becomes real. It is real, Jimin said softly. Jungkook shook his head. Real things can be broken. Jimin stepped closer, close enough that Jungkook could smell his shampoo, something faintly floral and clean. So can fake ones. That hit harder than any accusation. Jungkook's fear wasn't about the public, it was about loss. He had grown up watching things disappear, childhood, privacy, normalcy. Success had a way of taking as much as it gave. He didn't know if he could survive losing Jimin too. I don't want to ruin us, Jungkook admitted. You won't, Jimin said, voice steady now, but pushing me away will. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't hostile anymore. It was fragile. Jungkook reached out, fingers brushing Jimin's cheek almost reverently. When you said that, it felt like you were claiming me. Jimin huffed a small laugh. Maybe I was. Jungkook's lips twitched despite himself. I get jealous, Jimin continued, vulnerability cracking through his composure. I hate how much I care. I hate that one rumor can make me feel like I'm losing you. I said it because I wanted you to fight for me. Jungkook's chest tightened. Fight for me. He had been fighting everything except the one thing that mattered. Without another word, Jungkook closed the distance and pulled Jimin into him, not desperate, not violent, but firm, certain, his arms wrapped around Jimin's back like he was anchoring himself. I don't want anyone else, Jungkook said against Jimin's hair. I never did. Jimin's hands gripped his shirt. Then stop acting like I'm temporary. I won't. The promise settled between them, quiet but powerful. Jungkook leaned back slightly, searching Jimin's face. There were still fears there, still risks. They both knew the world outside that dressing room could be cruel. But something had shifted. You're mine, Jungkook said finally, voice no longer shaking, not possessive, not controlling, just certain. And I'm yours, not because we're trapped, not because we're scared, but because we choose it. Jimin's eyes softened in a way that made Jungkook's chest ache. Say it again, Jimin whispered. You're mine, Jungkook repeated, a faint smile tugging at his lips. And I'm not losing control, I'm choosing you. This time, the words didn't feel like chains. They felt like home. Outside, the noise of the venue continued, staff moving equipment, distant laughter, the hum of air conditioning. Life going on, indifferent to the storm that had just passed. Jungkook realized something then. Control wasn't about suppressing what he felt. It was about standing in it without running. He had spent years being afraid that loving Jimin openly, even in private, would destroy the balance of everything. But the real danger had been silence. Jimin rested his forehead against Jungkook, both of them calmer now. We're going to be okay, Jimin said. Jungkook nodded slowly, not because it was guaranteed, not because the future was simple, but because for the first time he wasn't hiding from it. Next time, Jungkook murmured, a playful edge returning to his tone, don't shout possessive declarations in a hallway 5 minutes before stage. Jimin grinned, no promises. Jungkook laughed, a real one this time, bright and unguarded. The tension that had threatened to tear them apart had transformed into something stronger, not perfect, not easy, but honest. And as they walked out of the dressing room side by side, shoulders brushing, there was no dramatic explosion, no catastrophic fallout. Just two people who had finally stopped pretending they didn't belong to each other in the quiet, complicated way love demands. The words that once shattered Jungkook's control had instead rebuilt it, this time on truth rather than fear. And that made all the difference. The rain started the moment they stepped out of the venue, sudden and violent, drenching the city in silver streaks that blurred the neon lights into something almost unreal. Jungkook barely noticed. "Get in," their manager urged, holding the van door open. Cameras flashed from across the barricade. Fans screamed their names. The world was loud again, chaotic and demanding. Jimin slid into the back seat first. Jungkook followed, their shoulders brushing in the dim interior. The door slammed shut, sealing them inside a cocoon of muffled noise and heavy silence. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Water ran down the windows in trembling lines. The hum of the engine vibrated beneath their feet. The other members chatted softly up front, exhausted, but unaware of the storm still brewing in the back row. Jimin stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Jungkook watched him. "You're quiet," Jungkook said at last. Jimin let out a humorless breath. "You weren't exactly subtle out there." Jungkook's brow furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You kept looking at me like you were about to drag me off stage." Jimin turned then, eyes sharp. The cameras caught it. A flicker of irritation sparked in Jungkook's chest. "So what?" "So what?" Jimin repeated, incredulous. "Do you know how fast clips spread, how people dissect every glance? You said you were scared of things becoming real, but tonight you practically announced it." Jungkook leaned back against the seat, crossing his arms. "I thought you wanted me to stop hiding." "I did," Jimin shot back, voice rising before he forced it lower, "but not recklessly." The word strung. Reckless. Jungkook's whole life had been built on control, discipline, calculation. He hated the implication that he had lost it. "I wasn't reckless," he muttered. Jimin's eyes softened for a second, then hardened again. "You were jealous." The accusation landed heavy between them. "Of who?" Jungkook asked, though he already knew. "Of Taehyung teasing me during the encore, of the backup dancer who grabbed my hand, of everyone who isn't you." Heat rushed to Jungkook's face. "That's not." "It is," Jimin cut in, "and I felt it." The van turned sharply, city lights streaking across their faces. Jungkook looked away, jaw clenched. He hated that Jimin could read him so easily, hated that it made him feel exposed. "I don't like people touching you," he admitted quietly. Jimin inhaled slowly. "You don't get to decide that." "I know." The honesty surprised them both. Silence fell again, thicker this time. Jimin leaned back, running a hand through his damp hair. "Do you know what scares me?" he asked softly. Jungkook glanced at him. "That one day you'll wake up and decide this is too heavy, too complicated, that loving me costs more than it's worth." Jungkook's chest tightened painfully. "You think I'd do that?" "You almost did," Jimin whispered. That cut deeper than any shouted argument. The memory flickered between them, weeks of distance, polite smiles, unanswered messages at 3 in the morning. Jungkook had convinced himself he was protecting them both by pulling away. Jimin had felt abandoned. "I thought I was keeping you safe," Jungkook said, voice strained. "From what?" Jimin asked again, echoing the hallway confrontation. "From headlines, or from your own fear of needing someone?" Jungkook's breath hitched. He had grown up being the youngest, the one everyone protected, but somewhere along the line he had become the one people leaned on, strong, reliable, unshakable. Needing Jimin felt like weakness. I don't know how to love halfway, Jungkook confessed. If I fall completely, and if something happens, if we're forced apart, if things change, I don't know who I'd be after that. Jimin's expression shifted, something vulnerable flashing through his eyes. You think I'm not terrified of that? The van slowed at a red light. Rain pounded harder. I watch you on stage, Jimin continued, voice low and intense. I see how people look at you, the world wants you, and sometimes I feel like I'm just borrowing you. Jungkook stared at him, borrowing me. Jimin laughed bitterly. You belong to everyone. Fans, media, expectations. When you're with me, it feels like I stole something precious that could be taken back anytime. That was the last thing Jungkook had expected to hear. He reached out instinctively, fingers wrapping around Jimin's wrist. You didn't steal me, he said firmly. I walked to you. Jimin searched his face, as if testing whether that was true. You walked to me, Jimin repeated quietly. Yes. The light turned green, the van moved again. But if you ever treat me like a secret again, Jimin added, voice steady but blazing underneath, I won't wait around. I love you, Jungkook. I won't beg for you. The words hit like thunder. I love you. They had hovered around that sentence for months, maybe years, wrapped in gestures and glances and unspoken promises. Hearing it spoken outright felt almost violent. Jungkook's grip tightened slightly. Say that again. Jimin swallowed, but he didn't look away. I love you. Something inside Jungkook cracked, open completely. He leaned closer despite the confined space, despite the others only a few feet away. You think I'd risk all this, he murmured, voice shaking with intensity, if I didn't love you too. Jimin's breath caught. I've loved you since I didn't even understand what it meant, Jungkook continued, the words spilling out now. Since you stayed up with me when I couldn't sleep, since you held my hand under the table because you knew I was nervous. I've been yours long before you ever said it. Jimin's eyes glistened. Then stop fighting it, Jimin whispered. I'm not fighting you, Jungkook said. I'm fighting the part of me that thinks I don't deserve something this real. The confession hung raw between them. Jimin reached up slowly and brushed his thumb against Jungkook's cheek, subtle enough that anyone glancing back wouldn't notice. You deserve to be chosen, he said, not just admired, not just wanted, chosen. The van pulled into the hotel entrance. Flashes of cameras greeted them again as doors opened. The moment fractured, reality crashing back in. Inside the elevator, tension simmered once more. The confined space, mirrored walls reflecting their closeness, the faint scent of rain still clinging to their clothes. When the doors slid shut, Jungkook turned to Jimin abruptly. You said if I hide you again, you won't wait, Jungkook said, voice low but intense. Is that a threat? It's a boundary. The distinction was sharp. Jungkook stepped closer, their reflections multiplying around them. And if the world turns ugly, he challenged. If people speculate, criticize, twist everything. Then we face it, Jimin said without hesitation, together or not at all. The elevator dinged, doors opening to their floor. For a split second, neither moved. Then Jungkook exhaled slowly. Together, he repeated. They walked down the hallway side by side, not touching, but close enough to feel each other's presence like heat. At Jimin's door, Jungkook stopped him. This isn't going to be easy, Jungkook said. I know. We'll fight. I know. There will be days I panic. I know you, Jimin replied softly. Jungkook's eyes searched his, and you're still here. Jimin gave a small, steady smile. I'm still here. Jungkook leaned forward, resting his forehead against Jimin's just for a second, hidden from cameras, hidden from the world. The storm outside raged on, thunder echoing faintly through the city. Inside the quiet hallway, something steadier took root. Not possession. Not control. Joys. And this time, neither of them was running. The headline exploded at 3, 17 a.m. Jungkook saw it before anyone could warn him. He had never been good at sleeping after adrenaline-heavy nights. His body would be exhausted, but his mind refused to shut down. So he lay in the dark hotel room, phone glowing faintly against his face, scrolling without purpose, until a familiar thumbnail froze his thumb midair. A slowed-down clip from the encore. His stare. Jimin's smirk. Their hands brushing. The caption was bold, provocative, already viral. Possessive glance, Jungkook can't hide his feelings anymore. His stomach dropped. He tapped it. The video had been zoomed in, edited with dramatic music. Comments flooded beneath it, some playful, some invasive, some cruel. They're not even trying to be subtle. Look at Jungkook's jaw clench. This is more than fan service. Scandal waiting to happen. His throat tightened. A knock came at his door. 3 sharp raps. Jungkook didn't need to ask who it was. He opened it to find Jimin standing there in a loose black shirt, hair still slightly damp from a shower, eyes wide but steady. You saw it, Jimin said. Jungkook stepped aside to let him in. It's everywhere. Jimin walked in slowly, shutting the door behind him. Manager called me 5 minutes ago. Jungkook's chest went cold. What did he say? He said to be careful, that this kind of narrative spreads fast, that sponsors get nervous. The word sponsors felt heavier than scandal. Money, contracts, reputation. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair. So what now? We act normal, smile extra wide tomorrow. Jimin crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. We are normal. Jungkook let out a sharp laugh. You know what I mean. Yes, Jimin replied calmly, I do. Silence stretched. The air in the room felt charged, like before a storm breaks. Are you regretting it already? Jimin asked suddenly. Jungkook looked up sharply. Regretting what? Choosing me. The vulnerability in that question was almost invisible, but Jungkook caught it. He took 2 steps forward. Don't do that. Don't do what? Push me away before I've even moved. Jimin's jaw tightened. I'm not pushing you away, I'm bracing myself. For what? For the moment you decide this is too much. The words sliced through him. You think I'm that weak? Jungkook demanded. I think you panic when things get out of control, Jimin shot back, heat rising. And right now, this is spiraling. Jungkook's voice sharpened. So what do you want me to do? Pretend I don't care, start avoiding you on stage. I want you to stand by what you said. I am. Then don't look at me like I'm a mistake. That stunned him. I never. You did, Jimin interrupted, stepping closer. When you saw the headline just now, I saw your face. Jungkook faltered. He hated that Jimin was right again. I'm not ashamed of you, Jungkook said, quieter now. I'm angry at how easily they twist something that's ours. Jimin's breathing slowed slightly. Then be angry with them, not with us. The tension between them felt electric, alive. Jungkook moved closer until there was barely space left. I'm not angry with us, he murmured. I'm terrified they'll use us against each other. Jimin searched his face. You really think that could happen? They'll speculate, they'll push narratives. If one of us smiles at someone else, they'll call it betrayal. If we stand too close, they'll call it proof. It becomes a game we can't win. Jimin's expression shifted from anger to something more complicated. Then we stopped playing. Jungkook frowned. What does that mean? It means we don't let public noise dictate private truth. That's easier said than done. I know, Jimin snapped. You think I don't know? His voice cracked slightly, emotion leaking through the edge. You think I enjoy reading strangers analyzing how I look at you? Jimin continued. You think I don't feel exposed, but I'd rather deal with noise than go back to pretending I don't love you. The word hung heavy again. Love. Jungkook closed the distance completely this time, hands gripping Jimin's arms. "I'm not going back," he said firmly. Jimin held his gaze. "Prove it." The challenge wasn't playful. It was raw. "How?" Jungkook demanded. "Tomorrow," Jimin said, "when we're in front of everyone, don't avoid me, don't overcompensate, just be the same." Jungkook's heart pounded. "And if they ask?" "Then we say we're close, because we are." "That's not going to silence anything." "I don't need silence," Jimin replied. "I need honesty." Jungkook stared at him, realizing something unsettling. Jimin wasn't afraid of the scandal. He was afraid of disappearing. Afraid of being erased for convenience. "You're not a secret," Jungkook said, voice firm now. "You're not a phase. You're not something I'll deny to make things easier." Jimin's eyes shimmered faintly under the dim light. "Then don't flinch." The intensity between them snapped into something almost volatile. Jungkook pulled Jimin closer abruptly, their foreheads colliding lightly. "I won't flinch," he whispered, "but you need to understand something too." "What?" "If this costs us endorsements, if it complicates contracts, if management pressures us to create distance, I will fight, but I need you strong with me." Jimin's lips parted slightly. "You think I'm not strong?" "I think you get hurt easily when it's about me," Jungkook admitted. That landed. Jimin looked away briefly. "Because you matter." The simplicity of it stole Jungkook's breath. "I don't want to lose what we built," Jimin continued. "Not because of fear, not because you decide protecting me means pushing me away." Jungkook's voice dropped to a rough whisper. "Stop assuming I'll run. Then stop giving me reasons to think you will." The argument burned hot, but beneath it was something desperate and fragile. Thunder rumbled outside. Jungkook cupped Jimin's face suddenly, forcing him to look up. "Listen to me," he said, each word deliberate. "If the world wants a scandal, let them talk. I'm done shrinking." Jimin's breath caught. "You're serious?" "Yes." A beat of silence. Then Jimin did something unexpected. He smiled. Not soft, not teasing. Triumphant. "Good," he said quietly, "because I'm tired of loving you quietly." The honesty in that sentence hit harder than any accusation earlier. Jungkook felt something inside him settle into place. "I won't be quiet anymore," he said. There was no dramatic kiss, no reckless display. Just two people standing in the dim light of a hotel room, the weight of fame pressing against the walls, choosing each other despite it. A vibration broke the moment. Jungkook's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from management. "Emergency meeting, 9 a.m. all members required." Jungkook and Jimin locked eyes. "So it begins," Jimin murmured. Jungkook exhaled slowly, a calm settling over him that surprised even himself. "Let it," he replied. Because this time, whatever storm was coming, he wasn't facing it alone. A possessive whisper, "You're Jungkook's control," igniting a storm of obsession, fear, and love that refuses to stay silent. The words cracked through the backstage corridor like a gunshot, sharp enough to make Jungkook's pulse slam against his ribs. He didn't remember crossing the distance between them. 1 second Jimin was standing beneath the flickering fluorescent light, jaw tight, chest rising, and falling as if he had run a marathon. The next second, Jungkook had him pressed against the cold concrete wall, fingers curled into the fabric of Jimin's jacket. "What did you say?" Jungkook's voice was low, trembling, not with weakness, but with something dangerously close to breaking. Jimin's eyes burned, not soft, not teasing, not the gentle crescent moon smile the world knew. This was raw fire. "I said you're mine." Somewhere down the corridor, staff members shouted cues. Music thudded from the stage beyond the metal doors. Sweat, hairspray, and the faint metallic scent of stage smoke filled the air, but the world had narrowed into the space between their breaths. Jungkook laughed once, but it sounded wrong, fractured. You don't get to say that. Why not? Jimin shot back, shoving Jungkook's shoulder hard enough to make him stumble half a step. You act like I'm something you can hide when it's convenient, like I'm